Welcome to E-commerce with Coffee, a podcast powered by Amber Engine, where we share e-com secrets for brands over your favorite brew. We start with the caffeine and then leap enthusiastically into behind-the-scenes e-com insights that led to the success of our guests. I'm Nate Svoboda, and I'm about to serve you up the best. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to today's episode of E-commerce with Coffee. In this interview, I get to speak with Jo Caruana. She is a marketing and brand consultant and also the founder and CEO of Finesse Group, which is a PR and communication firm based in the UK. Now, today, we're really going to be focusing on the customer experience and how brands really can and should be thinking about improving theirs. So, Jo, welcome to the show.
Oh, wow, Nate, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah, no, thanks for fitting us into your super busy schedule. But, kind of on that thread before we dive into the content, you're a busy person. You're, bouncing back and forth on your boats between Malta and the UK. You're a busy person. I imagine caffeine has got to play some role in your life.
Caffeine plays a beautiful role in my life, but it's not coffee, it's tea. I am your typical tea drinker, and I could have it intravenously. I would love to. I'm always with a cup of tea in front of me, and it's one of the things that my friends know about me. There's always a cup of tea in close vicinity.
Any specific type, or just like English, like normal, Earl Grey English breakfast? Like what?
My favorite is normal English breakfast. I drink that so much, but I do try to limit it because I get the jitters. With all the caffeine, because apparently, it's just as caffeine-y as coffee, or it can be if you make it strong the way I do. I try to limit it, and then there's like nice fruity teas that I love and things like that. But yeah, good English breakfast is just, it's the highlight of my day.
I don't think I've ever actually had a normal cup of English breakfast tea. I've had teas before, like herbals and, what have you. But, I've had a few people mention that before, and I think I might need to bite the bullet and actually try it sometime.
Honestly, it will change your life.
Well, there we go. And I need to kick the coffee habit because it's, I'm having trouble sleeping now. So then, there you go, Jo. Maybe that's the solution. I still get a little bit of caffeine, but it tastes good. Well, really cool. Well, excited for the conversation today, but before we really get into it, you have a very unique working situation in terms of, traveling and ultimately where your office is. Can you talk us a little bit about that and how you came to work from a boat?
Absolutely. So yes, I am on a boat. I am on a canal boat in a gorgeous village in the English countryside. And my husband and I moved onto this boat last year. We also have a sailing boat in Malta, which is our other base. Malta is an island in the Mediterranean. And I honestly, Nate, I wish I could tell you the moment we decided to become boat people. I don't quite know how that happened. I don't quite know how we went from no boats to two boats either. But it's been such an amazing transition. Obviously, COVID helped, although this was actually the plan in advance. But COVID has made it so much easier to work from anywhere in the world, live the life you want. I think my favorite part of it is that we're off-grid. So this lifestyle is totally, we make our own electricity, everything's off-grid. Sometimes I have to choose between the hairdryer and the kettle. Can't have both on days when the sunshine isn't really bright. And it's taught me so much about how to live within our means. And you know what? Running a business from here is amazing. I'm immersed in the countryside, incredible nature. Right now I have a family of ducklings just off the boat. So every morning I go out and I feed the ducklings before I start work. And I'm a simple person, Nate. Very simple. Happy with the little things.
That just sounds like such a nice, peaceful, tranquil lifestyle.
Yes, I needed that. I'd been in business for 16 years and I really went for it and really, it was full on and I loved all of that. But this is now the next step. It's very much, it's much more measured, much more mindful. So the business is still great. The business is still doing everything that I want it to do, but my environment has become a really important focus.
So you've given us a ton of pros. Are there any cons to work from your working situation that you can think of? Some probably more glamorous than others or less glamorous than others.
Do you know what? It's a small space, right? So it's tiny. My husband and I both work from this boat, but we've made it work. It's not glamorous, the toilet situation is what it is. And, things like that are just, again, if you asked Jo of 2-3 years ago if she thought she'd be living on a boat and doing all of these kind of eco things and living very simply, probably would have said no, because I was in the middle of building a house back then. But I absolutely love it. I honestly, there's very little about it that I don't think, it's totally worth it.
Man. Well, if I ever find myself in the UK or Malta, then get ready, because I'm going to be calling you and I'm going to come visit.
You know where to visit. 100%.
I love it. Well, Jo, you have a laundry list of things in your professional background, right? You're a writer, you're a comedian, from my understanding. You do a little bit of stand-up here and there. Would love if you could just give us a little bit of a rundown before we dive into Finesse Group and the specific stuff your teams are working on today.
Sure. So as you say, there's a lot of things that I love to do. And I guess what I've been really lucky to do is have lots of passions and be able to try them all out. That's one of the benefits of coming from a place like Malta, which is a tiny island, that you get to try lots of different things. Theatre has always been a very important part of my life. So I've been lucky enough to be a performer, working with the National Theatre there and sort of building up some past performances over there. At the same time, building a company, starting as a journalist and then growing that into copywriting and developing that into an agency with a PR add-on. And then I'm also a business etiquette consultant, which means that I sort of go into companies and I help them look at their customer service journey and sort of tweak it to make sure that the customer is getting the very best experience, and equally that their teams are having a good experience giving that customer service. So that developed very naturally into the launch of the Finesse Group, which the whole idea behind that is that we give an outside eye to people on their businesses. It's so, you'll know this, Nate, it's so difficult when you're in your business, you're in the weeds. It's so difficult to get that outside eye on what could be done better because you're so busy just running from one thing to the next and keeping it going and riding the highs and getting through the lows. And yeah, it can be hard to just take a moment and say, okay, I'm going to look from the outside at my business and see what's great, what needs to be improved, and just really go for it and get that actioned. So we do that. We come in for clients and we look at everything from their customer care to their communications and just help them to be better at it.
Well, and I love the point you just brought up, because there are so many times we'll speak to brand owners who, they've never used their mobile app to go through and try to make a purchase, right? And so when if a consultant comes in and they say, hey, actually use your phone and try to do it, that's where they're going to find those points of failure. Same thing for a brand owner who, they sell on Amazon. They've never tried to go and make a decision between their product and a competitor, right? So I love that idea of an outside eye. And you gave us a few examples right there, but can you give us a few more ideas of some of the specific things that your teams are doing to this end and the idea of being an outside eye?
Absolutely. So we come in at the start and we have that user experience. So often we're coming into a company with no or very little knowledge about what they do. We just want to get that experience in the same way their customers would. So we start by going through the website, we give the company a call, we just walk through the steps that every normal client would. Then in the case of a brick and mortar, we'll go in and we will, order a coffee or book a stay if it's a hotel. We tend to work with a lot of luxury companies in the sort of hospitality space. And we just walk through that experience. And obviously, depending on what they need, it's whether one person does it, 5 people do it, sometimes 100 people, 100 mystery shoppers will go through that experience and sort of create the data that the company needs in order to understand where they stand. And then we, create a report and make our recommendations, and then we go in and we action them. So, our mystery shoppers have had some fun. It is everything from sort of staying in a hotel and being a very loud and rowdy guest and trying to cause a little trouble and seeing how the management react to that, to sort of checking out a new restaurant or going to the theatre. We've done a lot of museum work, actually, going into museums and sort of checking how the communication's working as clients and users of that museum work out the space. And then, of course, there's the digital. So for all our e-commerce brands out there, we do a lot of running through the user experience online, pairing that up with the chat function. Is that working? How annoying is your bot? Can we get you on the phone? All of these things. And yeah, just then reporting back in a very clear, but also a very constructive way. Because at the end of the day, a business doesn't just want to hear what they're doing wrong. They want to hear how they can make it better. And we believe very much in celebrating what they're doing right. Because it's hard today. Customer care is really hard. So it's all about celebrating what your business is good at as well and doubling down on that.
No, absolutely. And it's important to recognize that, it's not necessarily you're always doing something wrong, but it's an area of opportunity, right? A way to improve yourself. Now, my gut would say, that, it's really hard to measure customer sentiment, right? Like that's such a difficult to quantify thing. But what are some of the tangible impacts that you've seen or your teams have seen with the client's customer experience transformations you helped with?
Oh, it's huge. It's everything from the actual emotions. So at the end of the day, we're humans, right? And the digital experience is so important, but we cannot forget that human emotional connection that one person can have on another. So often it's about really doubling down on the experiential side of business, finding those human connections where by encouraging conversation, for instance, we do a lot of conversation training for our clients and their teams. Can their teams have a conversation? Is that art getting lost? When a guest clearly wants to be able to have a chat and wants to, give a little bit of info about themselves that could be utilized in an interesting way. Are the teams able to pick up on that? It's little. So in a hotel setting, it could be taking note of the fact that a customer has mentioned their birthday, or they've mentioned that they're there for an anniversary, or that they're celebrating something special, and then being able to implement that, take that forward, being open to that kind of information. Sort of similarly, in a museum setting, it's about really engaging with younger visitors and sort of telling that story in a way that means that the human being is really compelled by the experience. They're going to remember it. And of course, the benefits for the business are huge, because to cut through the noise of all the competition out there, again, it's going to come down to that human sentiment, that human feeling, and that human being going home feeling good. That old adage of like, it doesn't really matter what you say, it's how you make somebody feel. And customer experience is all about that. And I don't know about you, Nate, but I just believe that's going to get more and more important as the web and everything continues to get more competitive. And of course, we know that right now we're going into tougher times. It's a busy but difficult time for a lot of businesses. So what should they be doing? Making sure that their customers love experiencing them.
Yeah, no, and I believe you're right. I mean, we focus mostly as Amber Engine on, product-centric companies, right? So the idea that, your customers aren't aisles away or miles away at a different store anymore. Your competition is centimeters away from you on a web page. And that's the same for somebody who's looking for hotels online or trying to buy tickets to a museum, when they're going and visiting a city. Another thing I'd be curious about. So a lot of times a business doesn't know what they don't know, right? It's a cliche saying. But so what is driving a lot of the time? What is driving these businesses to come and start working with you? Is it something that they've recognized internally or some external factor that's making them realize they need the help?
That's a great question, because it varies so much. So I think sometimes you'll have a manager who maybe goes into a new position and realizes that something's off, but perhaps they can't put their finger on it because they're so busy trying to integrate. Other times it's reviews. Reviews are bad. Maybe your reviews were 5 and 4 and now they're going down to 3 and you're panicking about why that is. Equally, you might just have had a few clients calling you up and you know that they're disappointed, or your sales have gone down and you're wondering where the drop-off point is from an e-commerce perspective. They're coming in, your marketing's working, but at some point those clients are not taking action. So where is the problem taking place? Similarly, it could be unsubscribers. It could be people, if you're in a subscription business, people that are dropping off and sort of changing the way that they shop with you. So yeah, it's clear that something has changed. And for me, when the founder is involved in the business, usually they have a really clear inside eye. Their vision from when they originally set up the business is still there, and that's carrying on. But as the business grows, it gets harder and harder for the founder's original vision to stay close to what is being achieved today on the ground. And that's when they do have to bring somebody in and enable that person to be that outside eye.
Right. No, and okay, that does make total sense. Now, obviously, everything that we're talking about marketing ties into this, communications, actual, like engagement with PR, with press releases. So I know that you recently, maybe a couple of years ago at this point, took part in the Story Brand Guide certification, something I'd never actually heard of, but it seems pretty big in the world of marketing. Can you talk us through a little bit about what that is, what it means, what that experience was like?
100%. So StoryBrand changed my life, and I don't even, I'm not even quiet about it. It was an amazing thing that came into my life just as the pandemic started. I'd been a fan of their podcast, actually, and their sort of material leading up to the pandemic. And I was actually getting married around that time. And obviously, when the pandemic hit, our wedding had to be postponed. And I took some of the money we'd set aside for the wedding and invested it in the business because I saw it as a great opportunity. And that's when I joined StoryBrand, got certified in it. StoryBrand is created by Donald Miller. It is a storytelling framework that marketers can use across their business, businesses rather, can use across their business in so many different ways. And the ethos behind it is so simple. You make your customer the hero. You are not the hero of your story. The customer is the hero of your story. So simple, right? It couldn't be simpler. But it's so often, as communicators, as marketers, it's very tempting to tell our story. But you know what? People don't care about our story. They care about their story and how we can make their story better, how we can come into their lives and improve it. So just that simple shift and the StoryBrand framework around that, and I highly recommend the book to your listeners, just that mind shift and the framework that Donald Miller has sort of laid out just makes so much sense for communication. It ties in beautifully with what we do at Finesse. And to be honest, it opened me up to a whole new world of business because the StoryBrand community brings together some of the best marketers in the world. And now we collaborate again, me from my boat and collaborating with people all over the world on this StoryBrand thing, doing marketing for companies everywhere. And I highly recommend it. It's that mind shift that means your customer is the hero and everything has to revolve around them. And I think that's important to be reminded of.
No, and that's fair. And I mean, in the world of even in the world of sales, right? You think about from the perspective of, am I talking about myself and what I offer, or am I talking about the needs of the person that I'm trying to communicate with? And I can imagine it's the exact same thing with a customer, right? I totally can see that.
Absolutely.
Well, so Jo, obviously, you've been working to help customer journeys improve for, at least a couple of years now, for at least maybe a lot of the last decade. What are some of the ways that you've really seen the customer journey evolve over time, right? And not even necessarily just thinking about COVID.
Okay, so I think the customer journey has become more important than ever, as we said before. So I think we've seen the customer journey evolve from the brick and mortar, the in-person, the customer journey as we knew it before the web. Then as the web became more important and we had, an evolution of all the different ways that we communicate. I mean, if you think 20 years ago, how differently we communicated from the way that we do now. So there's been this mass change, right? This really huge change in the way that we reach out to customers, get in touch with customers, they find us, and then ultimately we build those relationships. And now look how different it is. We don't even meet anymore. We're all just doing everything from other sides of the world through our screens. So there's been huge changes. And I think the customer experience has to catch up with that, has to continue to evolve to make sure that even though all of this digital communication is taking place, even though it has opened up incredible doors for us to do business with anyone in the world, so often through e-commerce and all these other amazing channels, that we don't forget that at the end of the day, it's a human connection that drives everything, that gives us so much pleasure and so much, happiness. And I think if we forget that, if we forget why we're doing that, which is, I don't know about you, but I started my business to make somebody else's life a little bit better. And all my business revolves around that. We have to remember that there's a human being at the other end of that. And everything that we do for them helps to ensure our success going forward. So of course that's changed the trajectory of how customer care works and customer communication works. But I think it's a huge opportunity. And again, just making that mental shift into realizing these changes have taken place, and it's a big opportunity to capitalize on that. I think it makes a lot of sense to be really thinking about how that's going to change some more in the future as well.
And so as we're thinking about, right, making the customer the hero in your story, we're talking about content creation, PR strategy, communications in general. What are some of the things that businesses generally are weakest in when they come and speak to you or you and your team?
I think content's a big weak area for a lot of businesses, and why shouldn't it be? So many businesses now have had to become content engines, even though what they're actually selling and actually doing isn't content. But every business needs content now. Content strategy has to sit at the center of most businesses, especially the ones that are communicating online. So I think having a strong content strategy is key to success, ongoing implementation, and a lot of creativity around that to be able to cut through the noise. Again, a really great opportunity to be using the StoryBrand framework for something like that, to cut through the noise and be able to speak directly to your customer. I think there's a lot of other things as well when it comes to sort of the in-person experience. Tangibly, you want to be really thinking about what people will experience as they go through your business. What touch points are they going to have? Who are they going to meet? The people that they come across, can these people have a conversation? Are they confident? I think communication skills have really changed as well. We're not teaching young people how to have good conversations because everybody's got their face in a screen. And that's fine if you're selling online, but we still need to be having those connections in person. So we need to be doubling down on media training and public speaking training and just simple communication training where people in person actually know how to look each other in the eye and have a friendly conversation and make that moment significant. Whatever it is, whether they're buying a coffee from you, whether they're staying in your 5-star hotel, whether they're giving you a massage in a spa, it doesn't matter. People still need to have those skills. And I think we forget that a little bit now because, of course, the digital has become so important. So it's about balancing those two things. And again, I say it again, keeping the human, the person, the individual at the center of everything that your business is doing.
And I love what you just said. A lot of times companies are trying to plan for what skills they need to have in their bench, right, for, leadership down the line. And people are talking about, well, they need to be able to code, or they need to have an understanding of cloud, or, and obviously this is maybe specific to the tech and software world. But I think, this next point spans all industries. It's really just about your ability to communicate with other people, right? And clearly and succinctly get your ideas across. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a service industry, whether you sell software or make software. I mean, that skill will take you far in life. So I love that you just said that. Now, I want in a minute to talk more specifically about content strategy, but before we go down that rabbit hole, now what are some of the things businesses you find are generally doing well already, right? In terms of these changes that we've been seeing they need to make over time, what do they generally already have down, if there are any commonalities you could point to?
Things they have down, I think products are improving, right? I think businesses are getting so good at understanding, knowing their product, bringing something amazing to market. Again, if we look at sort of the digital transformation and all the incredible businesses that have come onto the market, products are amazing. You can find something for literally, does everything. There's nothing you can't find. So that's always really impressive to see. And one of the most fun parts of my job is sort of when clients reach out to us and they say, I've created this product. And you're like, what? How did you even think of that? That's incredible. That's amazing. So I think product is great, and that's getting better and better. And I think people are also understanding the digital side, right? So I think, again, whereas 5 years ago, even some companies were still kind of teetering on the edge of ignoring the digital side, I think now there has been a quantum leap, and it's very hard today to be a business and not know that digital has to be part of your strategy. So I would say product and digital, that's where the major improvements have been. And that's great. Those are two things to tick off the list.
No, and I love that. And to your point, right, there have been several times in the past few months, I'll think, man, I really wish that X existed. And I Google it, and it does exist. And it's $60 on Amazon. So why don't I just go ahead and buy it? It's crazy. There's really there's a shortage of unique ideas is something that I've heard recently. And I'm starting to think that because a lot of it already is out there. So thinking about, right, the world becoming more digital, there's more opportunities and tools and things for companies to leverage. What are some of the technologies that are being used or that are just still out in possibilities for the future to help companies improve their customer journey? Anything that you're looking at or particularly excited about?
Of course. So we are as a content as a company that does a lot of content strategy. We're very excited about AI and the possibilities that brings to the table. There are already some incredible tools out there for AI when it comes to content creation. I've been lucky enough to beta test a few of them, and also to try some of the ones that are already on the market. In all honesty, I don't feel like we're quite there yet with the ones that I've tried. I feel like there's always going to need to be, or so far anyway, there certainly needs to be a lot of human input in order to take it to the level where the content is good enough. I think AI so far can get content over the line, but I think it needs a very good editor. And also, I don't think yet, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but I don't think yet it can have a truly unique conversation, because what AI is doing is pulling on conversations and content that's already been created and putting it out there in a new iteration, which of course is amazing. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of watching one of these tools do its work. It's like, how? What? That's nuts. But it does need a good editor, and it does need the human touch to create truly unique content. And at the end of the day, we need truly unique content, because that's how education and new ideas and all of that stuff, those great conversations continue to happen. So AI is something we as an agency are looking into, but I don't quite feel like it's replacing us just yet.
Right, because to your point, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily having a unique or a new conversation. There have been tons of examples where, they'll force a model to watch X number of hours of a TV show or, of plays, and then write a unique script or, write a new book. And to your point, you can read through it, and a lot of times it's okay, but it doesn't feel like it was written by a human, right? It's not going to win an Oscar. It's not going to, get a Pulitzer Prize or anything like that.
But I don't know. I'm conscious that it may happen in the future.
No, I was going to say, once AI can learn, that's when I will be scared. Once it can learn on its own. Well, so I think we're doing the same thing with AI, right? It's not 100% of the way there yet, but the companies that aren't at least watching it and tracking it and keeping tabs on it, they're the ones who are going to wake up in 5 to 10 years and realize that, they missed the boat or they missed the train. We talked about the importance of having content already, and this is something I'm really excited for us to get to. So we've already talked about what some companies are doing poorly, right? They create content because they have to, and it's not always, having the right voice, having the right focus. How should brands be thinking about content in terms of an overall strategy? Is it a content strategy, or is the content a portion of the marketing strategy? Walk us through how, a brand owner or a business owner should really be thinking about this.
So much to think about there, Nate. Like, that's such a huge conversation. That's really exciting to unpack. So I think firstly, it's who do you want to target? Who needs you to solve this problem in their life? Now, whether that is that you serve coffee, or whether that is that you are an AI tool for businesses doing X, doesn't matter. Who has this problem that you are going to try to solve? And you have to think of it like that. You have to think that you are solving their problem. So that's always step one. Once you get clear on whose problem you need to solve, you need to really empathize with that problem and why you need to solve it for them, and how they feel about their problem. Are they frustrated? Are they sad? Are they worried? And it's really understanding the kind of language that's going to resonate with them. Now, of course, this is all top level. It's part of strategy. It's about understanding, again, where you fit into their story. At that point, then, yes, it's all about creating the content that resonates with them, and critically taking it to where they are. If they're not on Facebook, don't go to Facebook. Don't have that as part of your strategy. If they're not on TikTok, don't go there either. Maybe you are working with people who still read physical newspapers because they're in an age group or a demographic that still likes printed material. Believe it or not, they are out there. As a PR company, we are still investing quite a lot in print, and find that the clients that do it right get a lot back for their investment. So there's no point them spending loads of money on kind of a digital strategy necessarily. And of course, the flip side is that is also true. But I think we're also seeing a resurgence of things like networking events, in-persons, fairs and events. So where is your ideal client hanging out? What are they worried about? And how are you going to get your content to them in a way that resonates? Because again, to repeat, you're going to have to cut through that noise. And sometimes just putting ads out on Facebook isn't the way to do it. I think today businesses really have to think outside the box and go quite niche with where they're putting that content. So it could be that your strategy is very simple, that you're just doing one thing and you're doing it really, really well. But if that works for you and that works for your niche audience, then that's absolutely fine, and that's all you need to do.
So what comments or suggestions would you have for businesses that have to outsource a portion or a large portion of their content creation? Like, how would you recommend they work with that partner to make sure that, the message that they want is being accurately conveyed, or, how would you navigate that partnership?
Well, I think the first thing is to understand that there will be a strategy phase to the relationship where the people coming in to create that content are going to need to get to know you, they're going to need to get to know your business, and they're going to need to get to know your audience. If they don't have that, if you're simply coming to them and you're saying, hey, could you please write a blog about tomatoes, and they have no understanding of what those tomatoes are supposed to mean to the person reading this content, then that's a absolutely wasted opportunity. If, on the other hand, you're allowing an outsourced content provider to come in to really understand that, to go through a story framework. I would obviously recommend StoryBrand, but there are other story frameworks. So to work on a story framework, to understand the needs of that user, and then to also help you to figure out where to put that content. Again, are you putting it on a landing page? Are you putting it on a blog? Is it going on LinkedIn? Is it going on a podcast? Where is that content going to be used? As long as you are going to give the content strategist that kind of freedom, and you're going to understand that this is a partnership and that you're going to have to work together in order to have this ideal outcome, then for me, that's the best way to go into it. The worst thing to do is to turn around and just say, hey, write this piece for me. Thank you very much. And that just doesn't work.
Yeah, you have a plethora of content, but is it valuable? Is it going to actually do what you want it to do, right? You're spending money to spend money at that point in some cases. There's lots of different mediums for content nowadays, right? There's, print still, there's video, there's ads you can run online, you can do short form TikTok or Reels or whatever you want to call them. I'm understanding this will vary depending on the business. What have you found to be some of the least effective forms of content that brands are using today? And maybe let's think about this from the perspective of, companies that are more so selling products, whether that be in retail or e-com.
I think it always just comes down to not understanding where their audience is hanging out. So primarily, I think it's companies that are maybe trying to do what they did 10 years ago and expecting it still to work. It's companies that maybe haven't taken the leap to understand that the market's changed, the market's got busier. I think I still have clients who will say, I spent $50 on Facebook ads in 2010 and I sold all of my products. I would like to do that again, please. And not understanding that things have evolved and moved along. So for me, I think that's where we see the biggest mistakes being made, and also that sense of disappointment that marketing can give if it's not done right. It's not having the right expectations. So our job as marketers is very much to set expectations for our clients and help them to understand that at the end of the day, there's a million different ways that you can market your product. None of them are guaranteed, but there are probably quite a few that we know won't work. So we have to go through this process of really understanding, of testing, and of having fun while we're doing it as well. Like, I think one of the biggest things is sort of taking that too seriously. And I know it's frustrating when budget is going out, but at the end of the day, I think if you're creating content that you love and you're passionate about and you have a genuine message, then of course it's going to resonate with your audience. So that's the best way to flip that on its head.
Absolutely. And thinking about making sure your content is in the right place, right? Depending on the industry you're in, depending on what you sell, everyone's going to want to get into Forbes or, Harvard Business Review or Vogue or whatever. But that's not always a realistic expectation, right? So, companies could engage with individuals like yourself, teams like yourself, to help negotiate and broker those relationships. But, talk to us a little bit about how a brand should really be thinking about, okay, what is a realistic expectation for us in terms of, the PR that we're putting out and the publications that we ultimately end up getting put into?
That's a great question, and a lot of it will come down to who is willing to go out there and spread this message. So do you have a CEO or a spokesperson within the company who's going to be out there? They're going to be the face. Because that's another thing that we're seeing increasingly from the PR perspective, is that people want to see people. The time when people just want to know about the brand and they just want to know about this anonymous, faceless company, those days are gone. I came into the industry at the time when it was better to be anonymous, and the least people knew about you, the better, the more successful You had a lot of potential to be successful if people thought you were maybe bigger than you were, or they didn't really know. People didn't really care. Today, everybody is questioning the companies that they buy from. They're questioning the values. They want to align on those values. They want to see the people behind the brand. So I think one of the key things is, do you have somebody, could be yourself as the CEO or as the founder, or somebody that is representing you, who is going to go out there and be a convincing and likable to your audience person that is going to be the front for your business? If you do, then get them the media training, make sure that they have all the tools that they need to be their best self, make sure they have all the knowledge, make sure they're trained up in your audience, and again, what your audience is worried about, what you need to empathize with them about. Get very clear as well, like stop being convoluted, stop overcomplicating your business, just get very clear about the problem that you solve and cut through all of that and just talk very simply to the person that you need to talk to. I think for me, that is one of the things where time and time again, if we can achieve that for a customer, if we can get a spokesperson from within the company and put them on the pedestal that they need to be in order for the audience to connect with them, that is one of the quickest ways to generate success.
I love that. And I actually, as you're saying that, I can think of a number of instances where that's really become true, right? Everybody wants a face, everybody wants a mascot. Maybe that's not really what this person is acting as, but, same kind of idea in my mind. And keeping it simple, I don't know if you ever watched The Office, but in the words of Michael Scott, explain it to me like I'm 5, right? Well, Joe, first of all, this has been a fascinating conversation. We could obviously keep going and unpacking in the worlds of content creation and content strategy. But, before we leave our listeners, what is one of the most impactful books or movies or pieces that you've read, listened to, etc. in the past year or so? Putting you a little on the spot with this one, so I apologize.
Is it a business book? Is it for business or is it for pleasure?
If you have an answer for both, then I'd love an answer for both.
So obviously I'm going to recommend StoryBrand, and I really whatever you do, whatever you are doing in this space,
Shocker.
Go out and read StoryBrand because it's wonderful. And there's a companion book to it as well called Marketing Made Simple, which again takes your marketing, makes it simple to another framework. So I think I definitely highly recommend those. I really like Traction as well. That's been a really good read. I really enjoyed that from a sort of that just opened my eyes to a lot of things as well. So I highly recommend that. I think if I was going to recommend something for pleasure, like a really great book, I've literally just finished a book called The Last Anniversary by Liane Moriarty. There's nothing businessy about it, but in the world again where everything is so anxious at the moment and there's so much going on, I cannot tell you how much pleasure I got from investing time in a really wonderful read that was just for pleasure, and that is a book that has just been amazing. So I recommend all of those.
Okay. Well, we'll have to put those in the show notes. And I'm a big reader too, because, at the end of the day, it's nice to be able to escape life a little bit and just read something for pleasure that, maybe it's empty calories, but you enjoy them. So it's fine. Joe, I really, really appreciate the time you've shared with us today. Where can our listeners get in touch with you or with your team if anything that we've talked about or said today has resonated?
Sure. So you can find me at byfinesgroup.com. So byfinesgroup.com. And you can contact me through there. And I'm very happy to have a sort of mini consultancy session with anybody that wants to reach out. We're also on Instagram at byfinesgroup.com. And I am at Joe Caruana on Instagram as well. And I really would love to connect with any of your listeners and chat through any of the things that we've touched upon in the show, Nate. It's really been lovely.
Awesome, Joe. Well, we'll make sure to put those in the show notes. Well, I'll let you get back to doing your boat things that you do. But again, really appreciate your time today, and hopefully we'll have you on for a future conversation.
I would love that. And yes, I'm now going to go and feed my ducklings again. So that's the priority.
Love that, Joe. Well, it was nice speaking with you. Thank you very much. That's it for this episode of E-Commerce with Coffee, powered by Amber Engine. If you haven't gotten your fix yet, be sure to get more e-commerce brand secrets on our website at amberengine.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more episodes.